All right, Shalom. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Yeshim Yahushai, by Yeshim Harakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who teach and rule well, and peace and salutation to the elect. I'm just going to read through this article. I'm going to bring out maybe a couple of scriptures, but for the most part, I'll just read the article because the content is fairly lengthy. So I want to be able to give more of the descriptions of these scenarios that involve the subject matter, which is, it says, FBI, sex with children is the fastest growing illegal business in America. So we'll start here, and if you brothers have any precepts after the lesson, please leave them in the comment section. It says children are being targeted and sold for sex in America every day, says John Ryan, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Children, young girls, some as young as 9 years old, are being bought and sold for sex in America. The average age for a young woman being sold for sex is now 13 years old. This is America's dirty little secret. Sex trafficking, especially when it comes to the buying and selling of young girls, has become big business in America, the fastest growing business in organized crime, and the second most lucrative commodity trading illegally after drugs and guns. So just going to show you that all these things are being revealed about the wickedness of America and how what entices people is the lust of the flesh. And they don't care what age it is. I believe that there are some laws that are coming out here in the next year or so, which have or will grant certain states for adults to marry children under the ages of the legal age, as far as under 16, under 13. Okay. And these things that'll show you who the wicked is, man. You know? Wow. It says an investigative journalist, Amy Fine Collins, notes it's become more lucrative and much safer to sell malleable teens than drugs or guns. So you can tell what Esau's system is really about. And the scriptures reinforce it. Let's bring out this quick scripture. This is Nahum 3:4. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. So when you get into this word here, selleth.
Strong's H 4376. Macher. Macher.
It says to sell literally as merchandise, sex slaves. That's exactly what Esau, the so-called white man, is doing here in America, because it's more lucrative and it's safer than drugs or guns. Why? Because a teen or a young lady or a young boy isn't going to know to speak out. And by the time that they do, all of the damage has been done. But it says to sell literally as merchandise, because that's what America really is. It's just a big con, okay? And the any way in which it can make a quick buck before anyone finds out, that's what it's going to do. It says a daughter into marriage, into slavery, okay? Because that's what we're talking about. Sex slaves. But adolescents or children being sold as sex slaves. It says, or figuratively to surrender. Okay. So yeah, I just want to bring that out real quick. It says a pound of heroin or an AK-47 can be retailed once, but a young girl can be sold 10 to 15 times a day. And a righteous pimp confiscates 100% of her earnings. Consider this: every 2 minutes, a child is exploited in the sex industry. According to the U.S. Today, adults purchase children for sex at least 2.5 million times a year in the United States. And these are the things in which we're exposing, of this wicked society, man. Because it's America in itself is an abomination. But see, through Yahweh Shema Shai having the internet be created, for the usage of the hopeful elect, what's now happening is all of these stories, all of these situations that were once isolated because they didn't reach the internet or the mainstream media. Now these certain media outlets that are alternative or that are not a part of the conglomerate of Esau are now being able to post these articles in which are showing statistically and historically how vile, America is, that it's not this glorious nation, that is really just a cesspool filled with corrupt people and ideas and schemes. It says, I'm going to read that again. It says, according to USA Today, adults purchase children for sex at least 2.5 million times a year in the United States. And I would even venture to say that a great majority of those are these wicked ass Catholic priests. It says, who buys a child for sex? Otherwise, ordinary men from all walks of life. They could be your coworker, doctor, pastor, just said that, or spouse, writes journalist Tim Swearens, who spent more than a year investigating the sex trade in America. And I'm sure you brothers know all of this has been happening well before this article came out. So like I said, I would even say that a lot of these numbers are much higher than what's been presented. In Georgia alone, it is estimated that 7,200 men, half of them in their 30s, seek to purchase sex with adolescent girls each month, averaging roughly 300 a day. All right, so like it says, in Georgia alone, it is estimated that 7,200 men, half of them in their 30s, seek to purchase sex with adolescent girls each month, averaging roughly 300 a day. On average, a child might be raped by 6,000 men during a 5-year period of servitude. It is estimated that at least 100,000 children, girls and boys, are bought and sold for sex in the U.S. every year, with as many as 300,000 children in danger of being trafficked each year. Some of these children are forcefully abducted, others are runaways, and still others are sold into the system by relatives and acquaintances. Human trafficking, the commercial sexual exploitation of American children and women via the internet, strip clubs, escort services, or street prostitution is on its way to becoming one of the worst crimes in the U.S., said prosecutor Krishna Patel. This is an industry that revolves around cheap sex on the fly with young girls and women who are sold to 50 men each day for $25 a piece, while their handlers make $150,000 to $200,000 per child each year. This is not a problem found only in big cities. It's happening everywhere, right under our noses in suburbs, cities, and towns across the nation. As Ernie Allen of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children points out, The only way not to find this in any American city is simply not to look for it. Don't fool yourselves into believing that this is merely a concern for lower income communities or immigrants. It's not. It's estimated that there are 100,000 to 150,000 underage child sex workers in the U.S. These girls aren't volunteering to be sex slaves. They're being lured, forced, trafficked into it. In most cases, they have no choice. In order to avoid detection, in some cases, aided and abetted by the police, and cater to male buyers' demand for sex with different women, pimps, and the gangs and crime syndicates they work for have turned sex trafficking into a highly mobile enterprise, with trafficked girls, boys, and women constantly being moved from city to city, state to state, and country to country. For instance, the Baltimore-Washington area, referred to as the Circuit, with its I-95 corridor dotted with rest stops, bus stations, and truck stops, is a hub for the sex trade. No doubt about it, this is a highly profitable, highly organized, and highly sophisticated sex trafficking business that operates in towns large and small, racking in upwards of $9.5 billion a year in the U.S. alone by abducting and selling young girls for sex. So yeah, I'm gonna bring out a scripture, man, because all of this is just to pinpoint how Esau, the so-called white man, is wicked as hell. Okay, and there won't be any things like this going on in our kingdom. Okay, and this is the reason why we do these lessons, is to give a clear picture of the society in which we are living in, okay, and how it's hell, okay, how it does not reflect any of the values, the moral statutes and commandments, the principles of the Bible, because none of this should be occurring. But it is because it's lucrative, and it's a way for Esau to satisfy his lust of the flesh and get away with it. This is Psalms 58, and I'm going to start at 1. It says, to the chief musician, Alta Shikit, Miktam of David, do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? Yea, in heart ye work wickedness. Ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. It says, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. See, because the myth about America is that it's this wholesome, God-fearing country that has this tradition of nobility and chivalry and all these other lies in which Esau, the so-called white man, promotes through his propaganda machine called the media. Whereas the last paragraph I had read, and the article itself goes to show you that these people are estranged from the womb. They are the wicked. And we're telling our people to stay away from these people as much as possible, to come back to the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shemi Awashai, to repent, to where our people don't receive the same punishment and judgment that's going to befall these people and the society. It says, no doubt about it, this is a highly profitable, highly organized, and highly sophisticated sex trafficking business that operates in towns large and small, raking and upwards of 9.5 billion a year in the US alone by abducting and selling young girls for sex. Every year, the girls being bought and sold gets younger and younger. The average age of those being trafficked is 13. Yet, as the head of a group that combats trafficking pointed out, let's think about what average means. That means there are children younger than 13. That means 8, 9, 10 years old. For every 10 women rescued, there are 50 to 100 more women who are brought in by the traffickers. And so even, the women that may watch this lesson or this video, where's your uproar against this society for these types of things? Where is our female support for Israelite men in the work that they're doing for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai? We're not asking women to do videos, but as brothers are doing videos, there should be support. This is happening to you. Okay? It says, unfortunately, they're not 18 to 20-year-olds anymore. Noted a 25-year-old victim of trafficking. They're minors as young as 13 who are being trafficked. They're little girls. Says, where did this appetite for young girls come from? Yeah. It says, look around you. Young girls have been sexualized for years now in music videos, on billboards, in television ads, and in clothing stores. And see, they do that because they know that women can easily be swayed by attention, by fame, by fortune. They use, these music artists, Miley Cyrus, I don't even know her damn name, Beyonce, Rihanna, all of these wicked women, okay, to have younger women be influenced. That's why they're being trafficked. These women are being traded all across the states. And they're being completely damaged. It says young girls have been sexualized for years now in music videos, on billboards. But see, this is how Esau makes his money. He sells sex, okay, in any capacity. He's a flesh trader, okay. It says in television ads and in clothing stores, marketers have created a demand for young flesh. See, look, I just said that. And a ready supply of over-sexualized children. All it takes is one look at MySpace photos of teens to see examples. If they aren't imitating porn, they've actually seen. If they aren't imitating porn, they've actually seen. They're imitating the porn-inspired images and poses they've absorbed elsewhere, writes Jessica Bennett for Newsweek. Latex, corsets, and stripper heels, once the fashion of porn stars, have made their way into middle and high school. This is what Bennett refers to as the pornification of a generation. In a market that sells high heels for babies and thongs for tweens, it doesn't take a genius to see that sex, if not porn, has invaded our lives, concluded Bennett. Whether we welcome it or not, television brings it into our living rooms, which is ran by Esau, and the web brings it into our bedrooms, which is also ran by Esau. According to a 2007 study from the University of Alberta, as many as 90% of boys and 70% of girls aged 13 to 14 have accessed sexually explicit content at least once. It says, in other words, the culture is grooming these young people to be preyed upon by sexual predators. And then we wonder why our young women are being preyed on, trafficked, and abused. Social media makes it all too easy. As one news center reported, finding girls is easy for pimps. They look on MySpace, Facebook, and other social networks. They and their assistants cruise malls. It says they and their assistants cruise malls, high schools, and middle schools. They pick them up at bus stops, on the trolley. Girl-to-girl recruitment sometimes happens. Yeah, I'm gonna read this too. It says foster homes and youth shelters have also become prime targets for traffickers. Rarely do these girls enter into prostitution voluntarily. Many start out as runaways or throwaways, only to be snatched up by pimps or larger sex rings. Others, persuaded to meet up with a stranger after interacting online through one of the many social networking sites, find themselves quickly initiated into their new lives as sex slaves. Debbie, a straight-A student who belonged to a close-knit Air Force family living in Phoenix, Arizona, is an example of this trading of flesh. Debbie was 15 when she was snatched from her driveway by an acquaintance/friend. Forced into a car, Debbie was bound and taken to an unknown location, held at gunpoint, and raped by multiple men. She was then crammed into a small dog kennel and forced to eat dog biscuits. Debbie's captors advertised her services on Craigslist. Those who responded were often married with children, and the money that Debbie earned for sex was given to her kidnappers. The gang raping continued. After searching the apartment where Debbie was held captive, police finally found Debbie stuffed in a drawer under her bed. Her harrowing ordeal lasted for 40 days. While Debbie was fortunate enough to be rescued, others are not so lucky. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, nearly 800,000 children go missing every year. Roughly 2,200 children a day. With a growing demand for sexual slavery and an endless supply of girls and women who can be targeted for abduction, this is not a problem that's going away anytime soon. So I just want to make a quick comment about Debbie here and how basically she had a friend of hers and how she got snatched up. And that's what's going to happen to these women, man. You know, just like it was, I think they had some women in either Africa or somewhere and they were missing, and all those women are going to start to realize you need the protection of a man at all times, or these numbers are just going to continue to increase. It's crazy. Yeah, let's finish out this article. It says, for those trafficked, it's a nightmare from beginning to end. Those being sold for sex have an average life expectancy of 7 years. And those years are a living nightmare of endless rape, forced drugging, humiliation, degradation, threats, disease, pregnancies, abortions, miscarriages, torture, pain, and always the constant fear of being killed or worse, having those you love hurt or killed. Peter Landsman paints the full horrors of life for those victims of the sex trade in his New York Times article, The Girls Next Door. Andrea told me that she and the other children she was held with were frequently beaten to keep them off balance and obedient. Sometimes they were videotaped while being forced to have sex with adults or one another. Often, she said, she was asked to play roles, the therapist, patient, or the obedient daughter. Her sale her sale of sex traffickers offered 3 age ranges of sex partners. Toddler to age 4, 5 to 12 and teens, as well as what she called the damage group. In the damage group, they can hit you or do anything they want to, she explained. Though sex always hurts when you are little, so it's always violent. Everything was much more painful once you were placed in the damage group. What Andrea described next shows just how depraved some portions of American society have become. They get you hungry, then train you to have oral sex. They put honey on a man. For the littlest kids, you have to learn not to gag. And they would push things in you so you would open up better. We learned responses, like if they wanted us to be sultry or sexy or scared. Most of them wanted you scared. When I got older, I'd teach the younger kids how to float away so things didn't hurt. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents at the Cybercrime Center in Fairfax, Virginia, report that when it comes to sex, the appetites of many Americans have now changed. What was once considered abnormal is now the norm. These agents are tracking a clear spike in the demand for harder core pornography on the internet. As one agent noted, we've become desensitized by the soft stuff. Now we need a harder and harder hit. This trend is reflected by the treatment many of the girls receive at the hands of the drug traffickers and the men who purchase them. Peter Landsman interviewed Rosario, a Mexican woman who had been trafficked to New York and held captive for a number of years. She said, in America, we had special jobs, oral sex, anal sex, often with many men. Sex is now more adventurous, harder. A common thread woven through most survivors' experiences is being forced to go without sleep or food until they have met their sex quota of at least 40 men. One woman recounts how her trafficker made her lie face down on the floor when she was pregnant and then literally jumped on her back, forcing her to miscarry. Holly Austin Smith was abducted when she was 14 years old, raped, and then forced to prostitute herself. Her pimp, when brought to trial, was only made to serve a year in prison. Barbara Amaya was repeatedly sold between traffickers, abused, shot, stabbed, raped, kidnapped, trafficked, beaten, and jailed, all before she was 18 years old. And let me say this as well. A lot of these women are bringing this on themselves. Because as I had referenced earlier, women should not be by themselves. But see, here in this society, they give you this false narrative of being independent. And what happens is, in these moments of independence, you find out that you're a woman and you do not have the power over a man. Regardless of how independent your mind is, your body physically is very dependent. Okay? It says, I had a quota that I was supposed to feel every night. And if I didn't have that amount of money, I would get beat, thrown down the stairs. He beat me once with wire coat hangers, the kind you hang up clothes. He straightened it out, and my whole back was bleeding. As David McSwan recounts in a chilling piece for the Herald Tribune, in Oakland Park, an industrial Fort Lauderdale suburb, federal agents in 2011 encountered a brothel operated by a married couple. Inside the Boom Boom Room, as it was known, customers paid a fee and were given a condom and a timer and left alone with one of the brothel's 8 teenagers, children as young as 13. A 16-year-old foster child testified that he acted as security, while a 17-year-old girl told a federal judge she was forced to have sex with as many as 20 men a night. One particular sex trafficking ring catered specifically to migrant workers employed seasonally on farms throughout the southeastern states, especially the Carolinas and Georgia. Although it's a flourishing business in every state in the country, traffickers transport the women from farm to farm, where migrant workers would line up outside shacks, as many as 30 at a time, to have sex with them before they were transported to another farm where the process would begin all over again. This growing evil is, for all intents and purposes, out in the open. Trafficked women and children are advertised on the internet, transported on the interstate, and bought and sold in swanky hotels. So yeah, this is the person going into their book or whatever. So this is kind of going into their summary of, what should be done and all the rest of that stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to bring out that article because it's stuff like this that's not going to be on the mainstream TV. It's not going to be in mass media. But, for our nation specifically, this gives you some idea of how wicked this society is. Okay? And if you don't take heed, what you're going to find out is you're going to befall one of these scenarios in your life, whether you know someone directly or the 6 degrees of separation, someone that knows someone else that knows somebody down the line to that person being sex trafficked. Okay? So yeah, this is just a different type of scenario that's going on here in this society. And it also just goes to show you how wicked, man, this place is and why we need deliverance. Okay? This is Ephesians 5:11. It says, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. Verse 13. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. And that's the truth. The truth of the Holy Scriptures are made to shine and to exploit the darkness that America and this society promotes. It says, for whatsoever doeth make manifest is light. So yeah, I just wanted to, like I said, cover that article. It was a little lengthy, but for the sake of just getting all the content in there and the descriptive scenarios and how, the statistics, the money, the amount of children each day, each year, none of these things are publicly known. And so this is a part of the Watchmen, is to make these things known amongst Israel. Because we are the ones that truly care about our people. You know, that's why this word is for the hopeful elect. So with that being said, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shemi Abashai Shemra Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, teaching real well. Peace and salutation to the elect. Shalom.